My friends, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Diner Talks with James. I'm James. I am super excited to be kicking it with you all here today. My friends, I have a favor to ask you. Yeah, that's right. I'm coming in asking early. All right. But here's what I would love for you to do. If you could think of one other person that you think might be interested in this show, could you do me a favor and send it to them and just let them know, hey, I got this ridiculous bearded guy that I listen to. He has some cool questions. He makes some cool jokes. But I think it could be a show that's interesting to you. Now, we're trying to spread this community, and it is way better to do it through friends of friends than it is through Facebook ads, because otherwise I have to put you all in boxes and try to figure out what my niche is. And I'm just not ready to do that. But I would love if you think of a friend that would be interested in this show. It would be really special if you could pass it on to them, my friends, because we need more people here in the diner. And I'm super excited to be here in the diner with you. Also with us today, my man, Harlan Cohen. Harlan is someone who I have known about for a number of years, and a man who has recently come into my life as a friend, and I'm really excited that we transitioned from, I've heard of him, to, oh, wow, we talk, and it's really special. He is a New York Times best-selling author. Casual. He's a speaker, and he is a self-proclaimed and also proclaimed by others, including all of his exes, to be a rejection expert. But he is, we're going to talk all about what that means and what that looks like. He's authored 7 books, has sold over 1 million copies of said books. His latest one is called Win or Learn: The Naked Truth About Turning Every Rejection into Your Ultimate Success. The one potentially that put him on the map is called The Naked Roommate, and 107 other issues you might run into in college. He is a leadership expert. He's an expert on grit and resilience and navigating change. He is also a man from Chi-Town, Chicagoland, in the building, most definitely here. And I'm super excited for him to be here. And he's going to tell us about his dogs and his 3 kids and his wonderful wife and yada, yada, yada. Enough with the intros, my friends. Let's get my man out here right now, Harlan Cohen.
Hey, James. It's good to see you, man. I'm ready. I got my mug. I got some fresh. Is this today's coffee? Sometimes I've got old coffee on my desk, and I think this is today's. I've got mugs that look alike. I don't know about you.
Do you still drink the coffee even if it was yesterday's, or do you take a sip and be like, that was yesterday's?
My limit is I'll drink it up to like 5, like from the morning. These cups, they say that they're good for 24 hours.
Sure, yeah.
But then I find after like 24 hours, my I use what do I use? I use silk. I use like almond milk, and I find it gets a little crusty. It tends to crust over at around hour 36.
Yeah. It's funny because my underwear is silk, and I have the same issue after 24 hours. It gets a little crusty, and it just doesn't work. And so, yeah, I think it's important that we rotate.
Yeah, no, those are great points. Good pointers. I always get something out of Diner Talk, and I'm glad I got my gem so early.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're welcome. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Harlan, you're right. The show is called Diner Talks. I'm curious. You are in Chicago right now. Chicago, a lot of great late night eateries. One of my favorite being the Wiener Circle, one of the best named locations as well, and just outstanding hot dogs. And they also make fun of you, which I really love. But a lot of really great late night eater spots in Chicago. Do you fancy yourself a late night meal every once in a while? And if so, do you have a guilty pleasure?
Dude, I think guilty is the word, because I'm a late night eater. I had a physical the other day, and I'm doing all right. Like I've been working to try and just be fit and be, healthy. And the doctor said I'm doing all right, and said, you could eat dinner, you could even have dessert, but then fast, right? Like don't eat anything the rest of the night. That just doesn't work for me. So now every time I eat after dinner's over, like last night, for example, I had some deep dish pizza.
Sure.
It's not a good choice. I actually looked it up because I'm like a little obsessed with like eating and food, and I was an overweight kid, and I can't. It's just part of me. And I was looking up my Giordano's because my kid likes Giordano's.
Classic.
And their deep dish. I like their deep dish. And it was like, I looked up how many calories a whole pie was.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to guess an extra large cheese? An extra large cheese, if I ate the whole thing, I don't know if you ever do this. Sometimes I'll eat stuff and I'll look at the package and I'll be like, what would it be like if I ate the whole thing? Because you can do the math. I'm like, okay, that would be 1,400 calories. Am I going to eat the whole thing? I don't sometimes. But anyway, what do you think a deep dish? How many calories do you think a deep dish Giordano's Chicago style cheese pie is?
The whole pie.
Whole pie.
The whole pie, I'm going to guess, is around, I'm going to say 18,000 calories.
Wow. You would be so excited to know that the cheese, the large cheese was about 5,200 calories. The whole cheese.
5,200?
Right. Like you're like, I could have the whole thing.
Yeah. What have I been doing? Why have I been stopping?
Right. Like 18,000. It's funny, like how you've made 5,000, 5,100 seem like not a lot. But then anyway, they cut it into 12
I really
pieces.
ruined your story there. I'm sorry, dude.
they cut it into 12 pieces. So anyway, each piece is like 400 calories. Because I was doing the math. Because I was like, who just eats one piece?
Yeah.
And then for your late night eat becomes, like you're probably eating like two of the little pieces. Yeah. Anyway, and then the guilty part comes in because I know I shouldn't be eating that, but it's so delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And shame's a cozy thing to sleep next to at night, and especially with a full stomach.
Yeah, but so anyway, I enjoyed it. It was fine. I'm over the shame part. Let's just move on. There's another place. Oh, what is the place? It's so good. It's there's I don't know if you know these like taco joints in Chicago. There's like these amazing like
world famous taco joints in Chicago.
They're dives. You go there at like 2 a.m. They're like on the corner of like some street and some street.
Oh yeah. Okay.
There's the sign looks like, a friend made it. And it was made 30 years ago. And what's the place? I'm looking it up on my phone because it's so good. And it's I don't want to get the guy's name wrong. So
yeah. I mean, so far the specifics you provided would get me right to where I need to go. So yeah, don't get the guy's name wrong.
I'm going to tell you. Okay. Okay, smart guy. So if you are in Chicago and you go out, you get off on Belmont, okay? Get off on Belmont and take Belmont east from the highway. Cause I know you're up in the Twin Cities. You can get on 94. Yep. You get off and you go east on Belmont and you take it to, what another street? No, I know the street, man. It's just past Western, and I'm giving it to you right now because I want everyone to go there because this place is so good. It's so good, and no one would, most people would drive by it and they're like, "I'm not eating there. This place looks like a dive."
I think we can admit, Harlan, with how much traveling you and I have done, the best places to eat in the country are the places that look like they're falling over because the only thing holding them up is a combination of grease and love. And that's all I need in order to eat a great meal.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. So I'll be able, it's Tony's Burrito Max. Tony's, I don't know if you can see this. Tony's Burrito Max.
Okay? Tony's Burrito Max. Okay. Yeah.
See this?
Max or Max?
It's Burrito Max.
Max.
And this place, and it's like, I know I'm screwing up the focus here, but this is like what you get, right? Yeah. And you get these like amazing tacos. And I want to say there's I can show you that. Here's the sign. Okay. See that sign? I don't know if you guys can see it. But you kind of get the idea. But anyway, this place is so good. And they're open late. You go to Wiener Circle. I like Wiener Circle too. I think their fries are okay. I've been going to Wiener Circle forever.
Yeah.
The Tony's Burrito Max, my kids. I've got a 15-year-old, I got a 12-year-old, I got a 7-year-old. And when we're driving through the city, they go, "Can we go to Tony's Burrito Max?" It was 12:30 at night. I live in the suburbs, and they go, "Hey, can we drive downtown to go to Tony's?" I'm like, it's 12:30. No. I mean, it would have been fun. I was thinking, how cool would that be?
And it's an adventure, yeah.
And do it. I like that place. Very authentic.
Yeah. So you put them to bed and then you drove down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have my guilty pleasure. But there's all those little joints. You're right, James. I mean, when we're on the road, you find those little dives. And I dig it, man. I go, I sit by myself. I experiment with the food. I like things spicy. I had the best Indian food just outside of the Catskill Mountains in New York. I was driving from one place to another, and it was some Indian joint, and it was called like the Spice Box or something like that. And I went into this place, and it was, man, my taste buds were happy. They were doing a dance. This was the most delicious food I've ever had in my life. It was hot. It was good. It was fresh. And I said to them, I'm like, how is your food so good? And they said, we actually have a place in New York City, just outside of Kennedy Airport. And it's like a little joint there. And this is their other one in like upstate New York. And legendary.
That's incredible. And an unrelated note, Spice Box is actually my drag queen name. But
I didn't realize that was you.
Yeah, that's me. Now
We've known each other a lot longer than you know.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Now, here's the thing. I'm a New Yorker, and so let's have a quick moment of honesty, okay? Deep dish pizza should be called a tomato parfait, right? It's not pizza. Like pizza is a flat, a thin crusted, Napoleona style, and so I mean, don't get me wrong. I love deep dish. I just don't think it's pizza.
You know what, James? I respect you, and I've learned over the years that I can be right without other people agreeing with me. I don't need other people to know I'm right to know that I'm right. And in this situation, I can tell just the way you brought this up. It was confrontational, but in a very, you were kind of friendly. But you were slinging swords, and but I can just tell you, it is pizza. It's delicious. There's lots of different forms of pizza.
Yeah,
I love New York style pizza. I don't know why you have to go there. So this thing, like, we're friendly. This is a friendly conversation, and I don't know what the underlying purpose of this is, but you knew what you were going to get.
100%. Yeah,
right. You knew it, man. Yeah. But it's. I think that New York style pizza is amazing, and I love deep dish. I like all different kinds, and I don't need. It's like I like the Cubs and the Sox. Right? Woo! What kind of human being am I?
Okay, yeah, that's maybe more controversial.
Right. Well, it's like, why do I have to hate one? Why can't I just like them both? Why do I have to downgrade something? Yeah. Demean something. Like, why do you demean deep dish pizza? Why are you so angry?
I actually have a therapy appointment later, and I'll get back to you on that.
Things have shifted. I'm just being playful, but a lot of people feel that way, and you know what? I respect them. I think they probably had a bad experience. Maybe they burnt their mouth. Maybe they had a stomach ache. Maybe there was something that happened that was off-putting, and they blame it on the deep dish. But it's a unique specialty, and I agree with you. It is like a souffle, but there's something really it's delicious, man.
I think I'm here for deep dish. It is delicious. And Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, Uno, Due. There's so many great spots around for sure. So I'm here for it. Now here's a place where I'm wondering if we can agree or disagree. What are your thoughts on pineapple on pizza?
I think I need to take stronger stances. But I think if someone really likes that pineapple on the pizza, then they should have that pineapple on the pizza. I'll take a bite of it. And I think it also depends on the day. Like sometimes you just don't want that sweet on top of your pizza. But sometimes you need that. It's a little, it's a little bit of a tangy, exciting boost to it. So I get it.
Salt, fat, acid, heat. It's got that acid in it.
Yeah, but I'll never order it. No. Never. But I will. But if it's out there, I'll be like, why does someone like this? I'll try this. Ugh.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm 100% going to taste something before I judge you. And then after that, we'll see how it goes. But
I'm not investing. I'm not going to order it. What about you?
I don't believe that fruit belongs on pizza, and I'm not here for the people that are now going to chime in and tell me, well, James, technically a tomato is a fruit. Okay. No one likes that person. So I don't believe that pineapples or other fruits belong on pizza.
You have very hard, you've got these. I respect that, James, because I think one of the things that I need to do more of is have strong opinions. I tend to waffle. I tend to be more open, and sometimes I don't even know how I feel about things, which is an interesting sensation because how could I not know? But like I don't always know, and I'm really working hard to have strong opinions like you. And I think that's why I had that reaction with the deep dish, with you being so strongly against it. Is it had nothing to do with you, James. It had everything to do with me and my own insecurities.
That's a fascinating thing to unpack, and it's also interesting that you bring it up because I believe that I'm a giant accommodator, and so there are things that I think that are funny to have very strong opinions on, just for the sake of sparking dialogue, right? And so and just for the sake of needling a little bit, a playful needle, right? Like I love deep dish, I just don't think it's pizza, and so because I'm a biased New Yorker, right? And if I was a New Yorker who liked the Mets and the Yankees, people would be like, who raised this kid over here? What's going on with this guy? Okay, hey, pal, what's happening over here, right? Right. And so having an opinion is a way of sparking conversation, and I think a playful way, right? And I don't necessarily come in with all my gunslinging. I believe I'm an accommodator, actually. I'm a 2 on an Enneagram, if that means anything to anybody listening. But right, and so I am someone who is in deep desire for people to like me. But one of the ways I get people to like me is by immediately establishing a sense of play with them.
Yes, and I feel like we've been playing, and this gentle play has made me like you more.
Thank you.
So it has been effective. It is, but I understand what you're saying, and I agree with that. And I was actually reflecting while you were sharing that, maybe I'm shortchanging myself because by being vulnerable and saying that I like the Cubs and the Sox, that is an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a very brave stance, because some people will reject me because they think there's no way that somebody could like both. And I have a story behind it. But then also there's the part of, I actually was telling you how I felt when you were disparaging to deep dish pizza. I didn't keep it a secret and just tell my wife later what an a-hole James is, because he doesn't think deep dish pizza is pizza. So I actually am going to reflect and say, I feel very brave that I was able to do that.
Yeah.
And I was able to express an opinion. So maybe I do have opinions. This is enlightening.
Well, I'm glad we got our full circle here. And I agree with you. You did. I mean, it is possible to like both. And that is, I would say that is a unusual opinion, therefore would spark a conversation.
Yeah.
And so, there's
absolutely.
no shame in that.
None at all.
As someone who does not have opinions, like, are you someone who, like around the house, and let's talk about it in your marriage. Are you someone that is constantly passing decisions onto somebody else and having them decide it? Or
I think I need to pull back on that, because I think it's more of like when there's very big news. Okay. I tend not to have emotional reactions. I like to temper the emotions, and I like to process information before sharing a very specific opinion or thought. So it's not that I can't express them. It's that in the moment I like to process what's happening. So, for example, if my wife is very upset about something, my reaction would be, okay, that's really interesting. I want to understand the whole story, and that sometimes is very upsetting, because things could be black and white. And how could I not be upset if someone's upset? Because clearly there's a reason to be upset. But when it comes down to me as a researcher and a journalist, I like to get all the different information to understand and contextualize what's happening. And you could see even this answer is annoying. Like the fact that I can't just give a response so I've gotten really good at this. And these are like, I think these are strengths, because the thing is, emotional reactions, most of the time when we reflect on them 24 hours later, we probably would react differently once we process that information. So I tend not to do that, but 24 hours later, I'll process and I'll have an opinion. Like I tell my wife, the hardest part, James, of being married for me is being a pleaser. Okay. Being a pleaser and upsetting my wife, because we've been married now for many years, for lots of years. We've been married for 17 years. 17 years. And I love her more than ever. I like her more than ever because like's more important than love,
Sure.
right? I like hanging with her. I think she's interesting. I really dig her. But the problem in the beginning is she's strong. She's a strong woman with strong opinions.
Yeah.
And if I offered an opinion that wasn't one that was favorable or what she wanted, it would upset her. And over the years, I've learned that love is about sharing how I really feel, giving my partner permission to act or react however my partner is going to respond, and just offering that out of respect and not requiring my partner to react one way or another. And that has really enabled me to really align with what's important to me and to be able to express that clearly and to also be able to listen and make information not emotional. Information is data. And I try really hard to separate the emotion. So that's where having those strong opinions that are emotionally driven, I tend to not be great at doing that because it doesn't feel good, but I'm really great at processing and offering a very specific set of guidelines and advice.
Yeah. I love the way that you dissected that. And I think there's an interesting mix because a word that you didn't use at any point, I'm not saying that doesn't mean it does not apply to you or who you are in your relationship, but a word that didn't come up is empathy. And empathy is a really powerful emotion to be able to give someone in the moment, right? It helps someone feel seen, feel heard, feel not crazy, feel okay, feel enough, feel whatever, right? Like a lot of really powerful emotions when we're able to empathize with somebody. But the way that you were just describing it, if you jumped straight into empathy, that would be an emotional move, not an informational move. And so therefore you would pull back. It's not to say that you are never empathetic, but it sounds like there are times where you delay empathy potentially to the chagrin of your partner.
I think that was something that happened earlier in the relationship. And by listening, I became much better at jumping to empathy. But the empathy is more of, I'm noting that this is an emotional situation. I can reflect that it's emotional. I can be empathetic without being emotional. I can recognize that this is a really hard situation you're in. When I'm interviewing people, when I'm doing events, when I'm interacting, and someone tells me something horrible, I don't just go, "Oh, that's information. It's not emotional." The reaction is, that is incredibly painful, and for you to be able to share that right now at this time in this place is incredibly courageous. I couldn't do that. And that's, and it's being authentic and true, and it's reflecting on the emotion that's being shared, but it's also not getting caught in the emotion so that I can be a bystander and help to really flush out the story and also connect with the person I'm talking with so that they feel comfortable and safe. So, I have so much empathy. It's just a matter of untangling myself from the emotion and not letting the emotion take charge of me and my actions. And of course, there are times when I get very emotional. I get, I'm short tempered and, I'm totally imperfect, but recognizing the role of emotions. There's a great book by, Mark, what's his name? It's about emotional intelligence. And it's so good because understanding emotions.
What intersection is it at?
Oh man, that is, I know it's at the corner of Belmont and another street. There's a bookstore and you can see Mark's book. I know it's like the beauty of this is I could look it up real quickly and Mark Brackett. This is great. Man, I just love it. Mark Brackett, and the book is Permission to Feel. And it's a wonderful book because what it does is it really helps us to understand our emotions so we don't become our emotions. We can process them and reflect and note them, but then we can make decisions and interact in ways where that emotion isn't the single driving force. And that's, it's interesting because when I reflect on our conversation, I think that there's a mixed message that someone could get away of, like how I communicate in terms of like having opinions and not having opinions, but I have very strong opinions. I just don't tend to base them on, I don't let my emotional reactions be what dictates my response.
Yeah. I'm wondering, sometimes when people don't share emotions very quickly or very readily, there are ways where one of the reasons why people do it sometimes is for what you just described, and how you are, where I would need more information and whatnot. Another reason why people sometimes don't react emotionally is because they've been burned before, or there is a fear of letting their emotions out. Right? Vulnerability is scary, and you are a vulnerable individual. You've been vulnerable on this call already, but it is. I'm wondering for you, when did you learn? When did you learn this technique, or were you as like a young child being like, I'm feeling emotions about my truck being taken away. Should I cry? Should I wonder why they took it away? Right? Like, was this something that just was natural to you, or is this something that you learned because of an event or a series of events?
That's a really terrific question. And, I think that it's probably connected to just a childhood of feeling intense rejection and feeling disconnection and feeling an incredible amount of pain, and trying to find ways to hide the pain through humor, through food. I mentioned before, here I am, an adult, talking about the calories of a pizza, and how when I look at it, I think how many calories would it be if I ate the whole thing? I mean, that's rooted in a long history of having a strange relationship with food and an uncomfortable relationship with my body, and being connected to being like a really overweight kid. And I had a few friends, and my friend was like the guy who played hockey who was really attractive, and all the girls would talk to me and I was excited, and then they would ask if he's dating anyone. I was the sidekick friend, and I would make people laugh, and I was really good at making people like I could be really funny, because that's how I was able to hide that. And when I'm funny, I don't have to have opinions. When I'm funny, I know how people feel. When I'm funny, I can create that connection. So when it comes to being emotionally driven and vulnerable, I would find ways to suppress it, find ways to hide it, find ways to cover it up. And I got really good at also then recognizing the feelings. Like I've been doing a lot of meditation lately. Are you a meditator?
I have meditated. I've been in and out in my practice, but when I do it, I'm a better person.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. I like Michael Singer. It's a wonderful book called The Untethered Soul, and then he's got the Surrender Experiment, and I really like his teachings. And so much of meditation is noting, is recognizing how we are feeling, being able to label our emotions, because when you're able to label them, you aren't them. And I think as an early coping mechanism, I was really good at labeling them and even being aware, trying to understand what people were feeling and why they were feeling, trying to understand why I was feeling. I mean, this is why I wrote an advice column for 20 years. This is why I write the books I do, because I like to be a reporter on emotion. I like to understand them. And to me, that's much more important than politics or not important. It's much more interesting and engaging. I mean, if you look at our headlines, I mean, people care more about relationships and drama and breakups and whether my ears and makeup and physical appearances and all that than anything else. So anyway, it's been that of really noting. I remember I was mugged at one point. Oh, this is almost like a poem. I was mugged at one point at gunpoint.
It's so fun. What
mugged at one point at gunpoint, walking down the street, running really fast on my feet. So no, what happened is I was with a buddy, and we were walking to a bar. It was like 10:30 at night, and it was in a residential neighborhood. And somebody, we walked by someone, and the guy, like, he walked into he kind of hung out in front of another building, and my friend kept walking, and I turned around, and I'm like, help me, Harlan. Like, that's my advice column name. Like, I want to help people. So I turned, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Can I help you? And the guy turned around and pulled out a gun, and he said, "This is a stick up." Like, it's almost like he read it from like I was like, wait, is this like really happening? And it was a gun.
He read robbing people for dummies.
That's exactly what it was like. It was crazy, man. And my friend was like 2 houses up because he had kept walking. He didn't know I stopped. So he saw what was going on and he ran.
Good.
Which, I mean, could you fault the guy? What's he supposed to do? So anyway, he ran and then this dude's like, he goes, get on the ground. Okay. And then he goes, where's your wallet? And I said, it's in my back pocket. And then I said, take my watch. Cause I wanted to, like, my watch is here. Cause I had a nice watch. I had like no money and I thought he was gonna be disappointed. So I wanted him to have something. So I said, I don't want to piss him off. I had like no money. I had like maybe like $20. It was the wrong guy to rob. And then I said, take my watch. And he goes, shut the F up. That's what he said. So I did. I listened. And it was really interesting because at that moment, my reaction wasn't like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so upset. This is so horrible. I was like, wow, this is what it's like to get mugged. I'm like, wow, this is what it's like to have someone, holding me at gunpoint. And I was like, I wonder what it'd feel like to get shot. I wonder what it was like, this crazy thing of like noting the experience. And it's like, and it goes back to that, like, I don't know, man, like my reaction isn't emotional. It's just like, whoa, this is interesting. This is crazy. It's never happened before. So then he said, count to 100 when he was done. I'm telling you, this guy was like, it was like, it was like the worst mugging. I mean, it was safe and great, but like, he said, count to 100. So I'm like, 1, 2, 3. And then I got to 7 or 10 or whatever. I heard a car screech and a door slam and he drove away. And then it was crazy because I like got up. I didn't count to 100. I made it to maybe 15. And I was like, 15.
Oh, you were a rule follower.
Well, it's like, I figured he was gone. At like 15, it's like, okay. And we're there. So then I got up and it's like a good neighborhood. And I mean, I ran down the street and some people were getting in their car. And I like went in their car and I'm like hitting the window. I'm like, let me in, help me out. And they're like rolling their windows, locking their doors. Like they want nothing to do with this guy. I'm like, I was just mugged. Anyway, then my friend came down the street. It was a one-way street, the other way in a cop car. And I got in the car and I still was like dazed by the whole thing. And they're like, what happened? And I'm like, and I explained, I'm like, you took my wallet. They goes, what was in your wallet? I said, I had a coffee card and I was one punch away from a free mug. I really was. I was one punch away, and he took the guy took my wallet. But anyway, that was such an interesting story because it was this thing of being aware, and I thought there was something wrong with me. But what I've learned through mindfulness and through meditation and through so much of this training, it's that awareness is a good thing.
Yeah.
That awareness doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. That awareness helps me to be able to assess in a way where I can really measure the different sides and come to an opinion that really reflects, true my spirit.
What a story!
I've never shared that. I haven't shared that story publicly. I've shared it once in a while. Oh, then what happens is like after I was mugged, I was like, man, I gotta be careful because if you get mugged once, people are like, wow, that's really horrible. But like when you get mugged twice, it's like, what's that Harlan doing? Like I was like, you get one mug of sympathy. The second one, it's like, Harlan's always getting mugged. It's just another
Classic
time.
Harlan.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, those experiences, those big experiences, and I'd be curious to know other people and maybe even, your experiences, your traumatic experiences. And we hear about this when people go through really emotional experiences, they're almost removed from their body as a way of coping as well. But I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, James.
I have never been, to my knowledge, mugged. And I have had I'm trying to think if I've had anything like car accidents for sure. You kind of like it's like an out of body experience a little bit while it's
Yeah.
happening. Um, and I think there have been times where I've gone through a breakup that it felt like I was like watching myself get broken up with, right? And like
Yeah.
watching my heartbreak or watching their heartbreak. And it was kind of weird to be not present, but also fully aware of what was happening.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things. I also, when I was young, this is something that I've never shared before. But when I was young, and I'm talking like 5 years old, I got that I was playing outside of my buddy's house, and a gentleman pulled up. And it was just kind of hanging out across the street, and he said, "Hey kid, come over here." And I was, I'm to this day, if somebody asks for help, you help them, or if I'm also a giant extrovert, so I'm like, a new friend, let's go, right? And so I went over there, and we wound up getting in the back of his car, and he touched me inappropriately, and then I got out, and then went back over to my friend's house, and he drove away. and my friend's mom had saw this kind of go down a little bit, and she was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "I don't know." And he was a nice man, but I knew a lot about cars. And so when we went to we obviously reported this gentleman, and when we went to the precinct, I was like, "Oh yeah, he was driving a this year Toyota Tercel. It was this color, and he had blank, I forget what state license plates were on it and whatnot." And they wound up catching this guy based on my description of the car, and he's a previous offender and all that kind of stuff. And thank goodness nothing more happened to me. But in the moment, I didn't think anything of it, right? And to the point where it happened to me when I was so young that it doesn't impact me, which I am very atypical in that, right? There's a lot of trauma that happens in that department, and I do not take this telling the story lightly. But that was something that I can kind of think back, and I've even like tried to put myself back in there to be like, do you have trauma from this?
Yeah.
And I just don't. It happened, I think, when I was so young and naive, and it wasn't actually a negative experience, right? And because it was pretty quick and whatnot, but like that's another moment that I can think of that is somewhat similar to where I remember not feeling like I was present in that moment, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I was watching it happen. And yeah, it is fascinating to way that does. But like, something you and I share in common is that we've done a lot of work in the educational market.
Right.
And I can even remember this with the number of really serious incidents that I had to deal with as an RA or as a hall director of a residence hall, where I was really great in those moments because I was handling what was happening and making sure everything was getting taken care of. And my emotions, though I am a very emotional man, kind of stepped aside. And like, I'll feel these later. And I was really great under pressure in these kind of serious situations. I think it's why I'm good in conflict, because I have the ability to kind of separate a little bit in some of those moments.
Yeah. I can relate to that. And just to just revisit your story, I know that there's so many people who have dealt with similar situations who haven't shared, and you share it very casually. And I know
and it feels very weird. It is, to share it so flippantly.
But I think that there's lots of different ways to process that. And I'm just thinking of anybody else, because I think there's so much shame that so many people carry with them from things that have happened when they were younger and things that were out of our control. And to hear you say that this happened, and it's something that you remember, and it's something that you can reflect on, and it's something that you just accept as being a part of you, and it's just one part, and you've moved, and you've been able to work through that. I think there's a lot of hope with that as well. And just, I think there's lots of ways to look at it. And I just think, for you to share that and to just offer that gives other people power and strength. And, it's just what you do and who you are, and why I'm so happy to have the chance to get to know you better. Because I think that just the world needs people who can be honest, especially I think men who can just be out there and say, this is who I am. This is what happened. This is what continues to go on in my life. And just in my own way of like, my neuroses and my mishigas. I was saying, the Yiddish word of mishigas of like, this morning I put on my green pants.
Mm-hmm.
My green pants are the pants that tell me just how fat I am. It's like, and when they fit, the green pants are great, and they fit okay. They fit good. I've been really trying to. I've been really working hard, and it's a lifelong journey, and it's a beautiful journey, and it's a journey I love, and I feel like I'm further along in this journey than ever before, of just loving myself and being comfortable with myself and recognizing the things that are me, those imperfections are the beauty of who I am, and being present and being able to note that as opposed to letting it overtake me and be something that then drives my storyline of, oh, I ate pizza at night, I deserve to feel bad the next day. It's like, no, you ate pizza at night because it's good and you're someone who deserves to be loved and you deserve light, and no one deserves shame. There isn't anyone I know, like no one deserves to feel shame. But we're great at creating it, and we're great at living it. I have a note that comes up on my phone that says Tony's Burritos open 24 hours. That's how it comes out. It's my reminder that just says I will willfully engage in thoughts and activities that fill me with a sense of light. And it used to say I won't engage in thoughts, activities, or behaviors that fill me with shame. And I'm worthy and deserving of anything that I desire, and that we all are. And it was just this reminder that no one deserves shame. We don't deserve to feel shame. It doesn't serve a purpose. It just shuts us down and sends us backwards. But there's nobody who's listening who deserves to feel that or should feel that because of anything that's happened or they've experienced. So
yeah,
just wanted to offer that.
That is beautiful, extremely well put. If you need to hear that again, I encourage you to rewind it and play it one more time for the people in the back. But I know I needed to hear that. And I know that it's funny because it's something I need to hear. I need to be reminded of, yet I also frequently find it flying out of my mouth towards everyone else. Yeah. Right. Like I jokingly say that Grace is a girl I met in high school and she wasn't really about me. And so we haven't really hung out since. Right. Like Grace is not a concept that I apply to myself. And right. It's interesting sometimes, especially as men, we don't talk about what we deserve, right? And what we deserve, and especially about this idea of deserving peace, deserving happiness, deserving self-awareness, deserving grace, deserving love, deserving those kinds of things. A lot of times when men talk about deserving, it quickly gets turned into a conversation about privilege and power, rightfully so, because there's a lot of men who think they deserve things that they do not, just because they are men. And so it's very important. I'm trying to distinguish between those two because they are very different. But when it comes to emotionally deserving self-love, that is something that I know I struggle with, self-worth. And even in my counseling session that happened earlier this week, my counselor asked me to kind of picture what my dream day would be, where I wasn't self-loathing, or I wasn't, just like worried about what I needed to worry about, or all those kinds of things. What is one thing that I would need to do in order to get to a day like that? Yeah. And the answer that I came up with was forgive myself. Yeah. And I am the last person who I forgive. Right. And yes, the whole oxygen mask on the plane analogy. I get it, Harlan. I get it.
I didn't say that.
I'm putting it on. That. Yeah, right.
I'm not going to say that to you.
But a lot of people talk about it, and I know in my heart that as many flights as I have been on, if I'm riding on that flight with my baby or my wife, I'm putting their mask on first. I just know it. And so it's very fascinating to think about these concepts that you just spoke of, because they are something that it is so easy to teach someone else. It is a whole nother thing to believe yourself.
Yeah. It's a hard thing. I've been in therapy and I've really loved it. It's been, just life changing, but this idea of being addicted to shame, I think there's a lot of people who don't want to eliminate shame, because shame is a friend. Shame serves a purpose. Shame sets us into motion where we're able to perform a routine that we're so good at performing. And it's safe and it's comfortable and it's predictable. And we know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that's really wonderful about knowing how to shame yourself, so that you can protect yourself from other people shaming you, or you can pass the time not acknowledging the things that really matter, that are really important to you, that are really bothering you. So this experiment that I conducted in my own life was keeping track of every moment during a day where I shamed myself. Could I actually shut down the shame factory? Because there's two factories. There's that dream factory and there's the shame factory.
Mm-hmm.
But the dream factory can't run at the same time as the shame factory. They each run on their own clock.
Mm-hmm.
So it was imagining during that day, how much time am I spending shaming myself, would have, could have, should have, measuring myself based on other people's lives and social media, the drip of the world and what I'm not doing and should be doing, and other people's accomplishments. So I actually kept track of this, and the goal was, could I live an entire day, an entire week without having my shame factory just pump and create? And that's what I still am working on, and I've gotten really good. I've gotten so much better. Yeah, because when you start to think of it, it's like, okay, why am I feeling shame? Because there's different things we do or say, or even conversations we have with people. Like I said earlier, when I talked to my wife, I would know there's certain conversations that I could have, certain things I would say that would create a response, because we know probably 99% of the time when we're talking to people who are familiar in our lives, what the response is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We know. And we know if we bring something up a certain way, we're going to get a certain response. And sometimes we seek that response because we know that it's going to be something that's going to fuel the shame factory. So instead of actually responding a certain way, I would just not respond at all. I just wouldn't say, or I would process for a while and share. And with my kids, if the room's messy, clean your room. It's, please organize your stuff is a direction. It's a directive. Clean your room, organize your stuff. This place is disgusting. Why am I ever going to want to buy you anything the way you treat your things? Well, that's shame. That's the cherry. That's the shame cream, the shame cherry on top.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, not only can I eliminate engaging in ways that create shame in my life, but also other people's lives. And it's this awesome experiment to think of, like, what do I really need to share? And then when you get down to our birthright, and I talk to, we run in similar circles, and we talk to lots of people from different backgrounds, and people who have overcome incredible adversity, people who have been rejected before they've even been born. More so, I'm a Caucasian male, which means that I've been born with privilege. And I recognize that, meaning that I'm going to be rejected less than other people. I'm going to be accepted more based on my appearance and my origin story. So this idea that you are not worthy and deserving based on how you look or where you're from is nonsense. Mm-hmm. And then we live in this world where people will shame one another because of where they're from, and start to make them believe this or reinforce this message. And the shame factory starts so early. So this idea that we have a birthright, the birthright is we're all deserving and worthy of what we want, regardless of where we're from, regardless of how we look, regardless of anything. It is our birthright. And once we recognize that, then shame becomes this thing that we can distance ourselves from and be like, why do I need to feel that? Because James, you're an amazing man. You're an amazing individual. I mean, you are light, you are love, you want to help people. You're an incredible father. You're an incredible partner. You are just a wonderful human being who has helped people through the years. You've been a servant. You serve, you help. You are deserving of everything that you desire because of just being a human being who's born. So shame serves no purpose other than to help us reflect on why we want to create it and feel it. And that's, I think, where the growing comes in.
Yeah.
If that's all.
That is indeed where the growing comes in. I love the idea that the shame factory and the dream factory cannot run at the same time. That's a powerful concept for me. And because I think when we try to run that at the same time, we don't live, going back to my love of improv comedy, we can't live a yes and life. We're really living a yes but life, because we're constantly, that shame is coming in there saying, but you're probably not good enough, but you probably don't have enough followers, but you're not hot enough, but you don't have your shit together,
Right.
but right. And so yeah, so they cannot run at the same time is a really powerful concept. For sure.
And I think that's the script that so many people are running, is one of shame. And, I just touched on a little bit of just like the privilege piece. And, I just, all I want in my life is to help others to see that they're worthy and deserving and good enough, and that they have people and places who can help them to get to where they want to go. It's just recognizing that you are worthy and deserving. And when you encounter people and situations and obstacles, specifically rejection, recognizing that rejection is part of the path. It's not a reflection of who you are, because rejection fuels the shame factory. Rejection is like high octane. It's pure, man. It's like, a fast 5-hour energy, whatever it is. It's like intense. And whenever we encounter rejection, it's like it strikes up that shame factory. And there's so many associations with that. So the bigger goal of, the books, of the Naked Roommate, of the speaking, of just any of this, even this conversation, is like, we're all imperfect. We all are working to create light and love, and we deserve to feel good. And let's together have dialogue and converse and connect and share, so that we don't have to spend our time focused on things that aren't going to get us to a better place, or focus our time on being present and just appreciating the beauty of what is.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. That is a world that I want to live in, and your optimism about it is not just bullshit positive psychology, right? Like, there is a lot of truth and beauty in it. You're not just forcing this. And I love that you also brought up the privilege piece as well, because you and I, as white men, we don't have as many systems around us that have been built to remind us that we are not blank enough, worthy enough, good enough of anything. And so it is also easier for you and I to tell other individuals that you are worthy, you are good enough, and don't let the world hold you down, because we've had less crap to push through. It doesn't make it any less true, but I think it's important that we have the conversation there as well.
Yeah, and I get uncomfortable even talking about this stuff, and I brought it up because, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and bringing this up is just part of like what we do.
Yeah.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. The advantages and the things that we've been given, just because of how we look, it's unfair. It's not right. And one of the things that I'm doing is I spend a lot of time interviewing students. I spend a lot of time interviewing professionals. I spend a lot of time interviewing people who have faced the systematic obstacles or the systemic obstacles. What's the right word? Sometimes my wife says, don't try to use fancy words. You can't really.
I use them both, and I don't never know.
I know, man. I try. But in our society, there are all of these obstacles. And I love talking to people who have faced them, who have been able to overcome them, who have found the people who are in their corner, who have been able to advise them and guide them. They found places where they can find acceptance, because the opposite of acceptance is rejection. And so many of the problems are, people are rejected based on the ridiculous, horrible, nonsensical things. And when you encounter that rejection, how do you work through that? And as a white dude, it's easy for me to say, the things that I said, but the thing that I love more than anything is talking to people who have lived it,
Mhm.
and sharing and having them share their stories. And I have this channel, Before College TV, and I talk to first generation underrepresented students, leaders, influencers, and it's the coolest thing, man, because you know you can see the path.
Mhm.
Other people can see the path, and I also learn things that I never imagined and never understood and will never understand. But it helps me to be more informed and, of course, more empathetic.
Yep.
And I just dig it, man. I love sharing it. It's the most exciting thing I've ever done, because it's serving in a way of like, all right, if I deal with rejection, if people don't give me what I want, if people are going to be inherently unfair, the universal rejection truth is a law of nature. I was telling you before, it should be in the periodic table, the URT. The universal rejection truth says not everyone and everything is going to always respond to me, no matter what. The universal rejection truth says this: no matter who I am, no matter where I'm from, no matter how much I have or how little I have. And once I recognize the universal rejection truth, when someone doesn't give me what I want, instead of hate, hide, attack, which are very understandable feelings, beyond that is look inward, look outward, move forward. How can I find people and places who have lived through what I'm going through so that I can find the answers to get to where I want to go, because I know I can get there? But it starts with recognizing this truth, which helps us to untangle the emotions from rejection. And when we untangle the emotions, then we don't get caught in the shame circle and the shame cycle. And that's why I love, I love rejection, because it's so much deeper. It's like the flux capacitor, the universal rejection truth.
Yeah.
It's like once you start playing with it, and once you start examining it and talking to other people, oh man, it's just wild. The world opens up, and people see that they can get wherever they want to go, no matter who they are or where they're from.
That That's some powerful stuff, brother, and that is why you are the rejection expert, and it is so powerful to hear you speak about it, because we are masters of building barriers in our own way. The world has put enough barriers in front of us, but for us to then have the audacity to build more barriers and decide to put them in our own way, it doesn't make any sense. But when you're good at something.
Yeah.
But still.
I know, man. And then colleges, going back to that, it's like the most exciting time in so many people's lives. The college part isn't as important to me as the idea that you get to go from 18 to 22, or whatever it is, 17 to 22, and you get to answer the question, what do I want? What do I want?
Yep.
And you get to experiment with figuring that out. And when you experiment with it, man, it is brutal. I got a teenage daughter, like she's 15, and man, watching the emotional struggles and just the normal, natural changes. But to be there and to be like, hey, you can laugh at this, we can smile at this, we can find the love. That's why when you're doing orientation and you're talking to all these students who are kind of a little scared, who are almost, looking around going, what's my place? What's my role? They don't even know what they want. They just want a friend. They just want someone to eat lunch with, so they feel a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get them to think even beyond that is just awesome, man. I love it. And you're great at it.
It is super powerful, especially, like you said, in orientation, for you to be thinking, so you're sitting there in the auditorium or wherever on the Zoom call, whatever happens, but you're sitting there thinking, I'm the only person who has this much fear and insecurity about what I'm about to walk into. And then you turn and say hi to the person next to you and realize, oh wait, they have the same amount of fear as I do. And it's just this beautiful moment of connection. And then it's making the choice of like, all right, well, if the two of us feel it, then we all probably feel it. So let's just hold hands and walk into this experiment together, as opposed to let's run from it and send passive aggressive tweets. Or whatever. And so, yeah.
When people get uncomfortable, I mean, you saw this as an RA. It's like, when we get uncomfortable, what do? It's like we attack or we hide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how do you get them to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, so that they, instead of attacking or hiding, can actually be like, wow, like I'm feeling I'm feeling some really big feelings. This is a big change. It's social change, an emotional change, a physical change, a financial change, an academic change.
Yeah.
And, no matter, it's not a surprise that it's uncomfortable, So I'm curious, man. I know that you were an RA at Fordham in Lincoln Center. You're Fordham Lincoln Center, right?
That's where I was a hall director there.
Hall director there, yeah.
I was an
So,
RA down in North Carolina.
So as a
Yeah.
hall director, I have a niece who's going to school there. Who's going to be at the Fordham campus, and I'm excited for her. And one of the things is I subscribe to this philosophy of when I want something, people, places, patience. It's always when you want something and you don't know, it's people, places, patience. So if you were to offer a hack, because being in New York City, being on that campus, it's a whole different game. What are like, I'm going to give you 3 things if you could do this. I know it's your show, but if you can give me what are 3 tips for a student who's in New York City, who's in that environment, who's starting off, what are 3 things that they could do to help themselves to navigate that change?
3 things that they can do to help navigate that change. I think first, hop on a subway and just start exploring, right? Like just become comfortable with your surroundings, especially, I don't know if if you said it's your niece.
Yeah.
If your niece is going, I don't know if they're at the Rose Hill campus, which is in the Bronx, or if they're at Lincoln Center, which is down Manhattan. They're at Lincoln Center. Yeah. So I don't even need to get on a subway then, right? They can just start walking around, right? 2 blocks away from Central Park, a block away from the Met, right? And all these incredible places, Lincoln Center, I should say. And so first it's just to walk around and realize that this is a gigantic city and it's actually one of the safest places to be. Right? Like this is a really beautiful place. It is a melting pot. And in New York City, a lot of times people get sheltered by their own little 20 block radius that they come up with. Like, I never go below 14th Street, or I never go above 57th or stuff like that. Right? Like, no, you are in the capital of the world. You need to plan out that you could literally eat in a new restaurant every single day of the year and probably never run out of restaurants because of the turnover of restaurants. Right? Like you could just keep eating in new restaurants in New York City, especially if you expand into 5 boroughs. Next is make sure that the next thing that I would say to do is to be curious. Be authentically curious about those around you. You are living in the melting pot. And so how are you experiencing new food? How are you experiencing new conversations? How are you experiencing new people? It's very easy. It's very easy to think that oh, of course, yeah, I'm all about diversity. Look at where I live. It's a diverse place. It's like, no, you can be some of the most ignorant people that I know and closed-minded people I know are surrounded by a whole bunch of people that look different than them because they've never chose to engage. Yeah. And the last thing I would say is the key to any first year of college is to eat as much free pizza as you can and get as many free t-shirts as you can. Because if you did that, that means you went to the most programs, the most events, you tried the most things out. And so it is a competition. Eat the most free pizza that you can and go and try to get the most free t-shirts because that means you showed up and you didn't just hang out in your hall.
Oh, that's a great angle. I love that. I tell people to eat free food because, I'll tell them, spiritual groups are great because you get free food and, they're nice people. And even if you're not into God, you can eat free food. But I like the whole thing of, I like that because if you have gone to those places, if you have your t-shirts and free food, you've met people. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, how can you leave college and not want a t-shirt quilt? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Harlan, it's so funny because I mentioned this in the introductions that, I have known of you for quite some time because The Naked Roommate came out. What year did that come out? Was it 04, 05?
05, man.
05, yeah. So it came out right when I graduated, the year that I graduated undergrad, because I took a victory lap in undergrad, no shame in the 5-year plan. And the year that I transitioned into going to graduate school for higher education. And so I was getting a master's at Clemson so I could work in higher ed as an administrator. And so your book came out at this pivotal point where everybody's talking about it. It was really exciting. Yeah. And so you were you were this individual who was like, oh God, who's this guy who's changing the whole game out here and writing this book? And it's so special to have humanized you, right? Yeah. And you're not just this guy who wrote this New York Times bestseller, but there is so much brilliance and wisdom. And I'm so excited for you because you just had a book that came out around this concept of rejection, right? It's called Win or Learn, the Naked Truth. Everything about Harlan's naked. He's naked right now. I know you can't see him, but Win or Learn, the Naked Truth about turning every rejection into your ultimate success. I love that you are still out here writing and changing the game. And you, as a rejection expert, wrote this book. Who is this book for? Is it for anybody? Is it for the youth market? I mean, I would assume we can all learn something from rejection and have learned something from rejection, but I'm curious, tell us a little bit about this book and who it's for.
Yeah, thanks for the softball question, and thanks for sharing it. I love this book because it was rejected for so many years, and it has had so many different. It's been in so many different forms. And one of the biggest rejections happened in New York City. I think it was with Broadway Books, and I had this meeting, and man, I was so excited, and they hated it. And even the editorial assistant said, you might do well if you walked through a bookstore and just like looked at some of the titles on the shelves. And I found that to be really good advice. And then I went down to Chevy's. There was the Mexican. I like Mexican food.
Sure, yeah.
And Chevy's was down. I think it was Chevy's. Yeah, there's a big one right not too far, and I drowned my sorrows in some nachos. But man, that was pretty brutal. But this whole rejection concept, this book, it's really for everyone. It's for anyone who wants something. It's for anyone who has a goal, anyone who wants to create change or experience something that excites them. Because I'm a firm believer that we should all be excited about something. Because when we're not excited about something, then we tend to not have hope. And when you're not someone who has hope, you tend to be hopeless. And that's just not a great way to live life. So when you want something, you have something to look forward to. And I think that a lot of us have been beaten and bruised the past year. People are a little bit, I think, timid when it comes to wanting big. Because if we share what we want and it's big and bold, other people are going to know what we want. And if we share what we want and we end up not getting it, then we're going to feel shame because of the rejection that goes hand in hand with wanting and either getting it or not getting it. So what I want to do is to, offer a easy solution. This book is so simple to read. I actually have a copy right here. There are pictures. Okay. Look, it's pictures. It's like double spaced. It looks like you had a term paper and we're trying to just like pad it with some stuff. But
margins are way in. Carry your new font.
Like a book. Yeah. The style of this book is you read it in a couple hours, and this book offers a very simple guide. What do you want? What do you want? What do you really want? What do you want to create, experience, or change? Do you have anything, James, you want to create, experience, or change?
I have a book that I'm working on a proposal for, actually.
So you're creating that, and that's exciting. And you're going to put your heart and soul into this book. And people are either going to want to publish it or they're not, right? You want to get a publisher, right?
Ideally.
Yeah. And if not, then you'll publish it, right? You'll figure out a way to publish it and get it out there. Because people will love to hear it and see it. But the thing is, when you want something bad enough, you invest emotionally. It's like I know you're in a relationship, you have a child, and you were single at one point, and I'm sure when you were single, you wanted a date, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, desperately.
Did you desperately? Me too. And do you remember a time when you wanted a date and you took a risk and you got rejected?
Oh yeah.
Is there a particular name or someone can we go in the time
Debbie,
capsule?
let's call it Debbie.
Debbie?
Sure, yeah.
And then what did you say to Debbie?
Post-rejection or pre-rejection?
Pre-rejection. What was your line? What was your approach?
Pre-rejection, we had been friends. I'm someone who was friendly, much like you, had a lot of people that thought I was very funny and was very well liked, but was never necessarily seen as someone who was sexually attractive and whatnot. And so these are the stories that I wrote myself. But Debbie and I were friends, and I was always helping her with the other guys that she liked. And then one day I said, Debbie, I help you with a lot of other guys, but I got to be honest with you. There's there's always part of me that never wants it to work out because I really like you and I would like to date you. And I don't know if you would ever want to date me. And I did the thing where you put it all out on the table and, there's mixed emotions on when you should do that or not, but I showed my cards.
And what did she respond with?
She said, Robo is what she called me. She said, Robo, I love you and I care deeply about you. I just don't see you that way. And I hope that's okay.
Ugh, that's hard. And then did your friendship change?
It did, but fortunately she was going to college within like a handful of months. And so it didn't have to, I would say that I did not go over there as much after that.
Yeah.
So, but I did, still was very
regret
kind to her.
doing it? Do you have any regrets over that?
I don't. It's kind of a shoot your shot moment.
Yeah.
And it was, it was embarrassing, but nobody else saw it. Nobody else had to know about it. And I knew she cared about me enough that it wasn't going to be like next day, like, oh my God, guess who asked me out, as if, right. Like, so, I knew that she cared about me and I felt, it was kind of like, let's give this a shot.
Right. Well, I think you're a hero.
Thanks.
And I mean, really, man, that's the hardest thing to do. And now, in your relationship and where you are in life that, it wasn't Debbie, wasn't it? It's like, there's resolution and you're still good enough and worthy and deserving. It's just that it wasn't with this person for whatever reason. And it's like, that's the thing that's so hard, especially when it comes to things we want. The more we want, the more emotion that's tied to what we want, the harder it is to say what we think and express how we feel. And that's what this book is about. That's what the whole approach is about. It's like, what do you want to create, change, or experience? What's really important to you? And then when you put yourself out there, it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's either going to work out or it's not going to work out the way you want. But what if you could take a risk and know that no matter what, you're going to be okay? And that's the win or learn philosophy. Nelson Mandela's quote is, I never lose, I either win or I learn. Yeah. And that philosophy of you learn, man, you learn that she didn't want you in that way. And you know what? That opened you up to be able to open your heart and to be able to find other people who you can share your gift with. And I know you know this, but this is the way that we need to think about it so that we don't shut down and hide when we don't get what we want. And that's the idea. So it's what do you want? What makes you uncomfortable? And then when you don't know answers, you find people and places who are living the life you want to live. You reach out to those people. You connect with those people. You tell your story as if it's happened. You tell a positive story, a hopeful story, a happy story. And no matter what happens, you celebrate, reflect, and repeat. And once you can go through this process and have it be something that's just automatic, like a reflex. What do I want? What makes me uncomfortable? People, places, patience. Tell my story, celebrate, reflect, repeat. Boom, 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 boom. You do it again and again and again in all different parts of our life, you become unstoppable. And when you're armed with the universal rejection truth, that's the cape. That's the secret sauce. That's the thing that no one ever tells us about that makes it okay to be rejected and to know you're good enough. If you walk into a room and you're a 9 and someone isn't interested in you, you could walk out of there a 9.1, right? Most people walk out of 1, but they are still that 9. They're still that 9. So anyway, that's what the book does. And we're doing it for like leadership groups for colleges, universities. They're jumping on board. There's a 25-day risk-taking experiment I put together on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to be running another one because, this is it, man. This is life. This is the essence. This is the nectar. This is the marrow. This is the stuff that makes tomorrow brighter and better. I've never put that sequence together before. It sounded like it, but I love this. I love it because, man, we are all so worthy and deserving, and there's so much goodness out there. I just want to help people find it. That's it.
That's beautiful. This is the marrow of tomorrow, my friend. I like it. And we speakers are nothing without our word packages. But Harlan, I am pumped. I ordered the book. It's on the way to the house. I'm excited to read it, and also scared to read it, but in a good fear. And I am so honored that you wanted to kick it with me here in the diner, my brother. I look forward to, now that the world is opening up a little bit, I can't wait to come down to Chi-Town and do this in real life at Tony's over there on Belmont and whatever. And I can't wait.
Belmont, I know you're wrapping this up, but it's Belmont and Damon.
Belmont and Damon. That's fine. You ruined the joke, but it's all good. No, seriously, brother. I cannot thank you enough for our new friendship, and I'm excited to dive deeper into it in the coming years. And thank you, brother, for coming to the diner today.
Yeah. Feelings are mutual. Thanks, James. Excited to be on this journey with you.
Hell yeah. My friends, that was my guy Harlan Cohen kicking it in the diner. My goodness. Y'all, that was a wonderful conversation. I had questions written down. I only asked one of them because that's the power of a beautiful conversation with a man who makes you think. And that's what I have always loved about Harlan Cohen. He has a way of asking questions, of sharing philosophies and thoughts that are just a little bit different than what you've heard before, and enough that they're like, I need to give this more thought. And he is a true example of a phrase that I love to end every Diner Talks with. And that is this, my friends: keep punching small talk in the face by asking better questions. You all take care. Thanks for kicking it in the diner. Take care.